Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video, I'm going to be showcasing a Pokemon that I believe is the secret sauce of the Jungle Cup, and that is Shadow Camerupt. At the start of the season, Shadow Camerupt got two massive move updates, Rock Tomb and Scorching Sands. This means that for the very first time, Camerupt was able to double up on charge attacks, and with Rock Tomb, it's able to apply attack debuffs to help offset the fact that it is insanely bulky. Today's video is going to be showing me running two different Camerupt teams. First of my own creation, and the second, a team that a trainer used to hit 2600 elo. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches, and in game number 1, we pick up a very bad lead Whimsicott into Togekiss. I'm going to immediately save switch out of this matchup and save switch into the Shadow Water Gun Quagsire. I do believe that Water Gun on Quagsire does have quite a lot of merit in this meta, as it does give Quagsire some very nice fast move pressure into the flyers, which is very helpful if you're running a Pokemon like Whimsicott that really does not like flying. My opponent is going to get some chip damage and then send in their Mudshot Quagsire, and this is a very important bait out for me, because I have a Camerupt in the back. I cannot afford to see a Mudboy whatsoever. I send in the Whimsicott, no shield as they fire off the Stone Edge, and I'm going to look to overfarm and CMP tie the Quagsire as they make it to the Aqua Tail. I've baited out the Mudboy, I've knocked it out with the Whimsicott, and now it's time to trust Camerupt. My opponent reveals their final Pokemon is a Fortress, and this game is over. In comes Shadow Camerupt, Togekiss gets brought back onto the field, they fire off the Aura Sphere, I shield up, I get the farm down, and now it's just all over. Shadow Camerupt on an absolute rampage. There's nothing my opponent can do. These Incinerates are absolutely shredding. We land the Rock Tomb, get the farm down, and take the game 1 win. Hopping into game number 2, and the leads are not getting any easier. Whimsicott into Shadow Charizard. Immediate save switch into the Shadow Water Gun Quagsire. My opponent stays in to fire off an Air Cutter, but in doing so, they lose about a third of their health bar. Now they're going to send in Licky Licky, so my opponent really did not have a strong answer to Quagsire on the team whatsoever. I'm not going to bait against the Licky Licky. If they have a Charizard on the team, they probably want to save shields for the Charizard. So I'm just going to get as much damage as I possibly can with the Quagsire, and the Stone Edge does actually put the Licky Licky quite low. Now I can send in Whimsicott, and Whimsicott will look to overfarm significantly. I don't want to take a ton of damage on the Whimsicott, but ideally, I do want to try and get a small energy head start. So I throw 4 Fairy Winds in the Seed Bomb, this will take knockout, and now it's time to send in the Camerupt. My opponent's going to be waiting down their timer because they did desync the clocks. Charizard answered with the Camerupt, and they're going to farm up and throw right before they get KO'd. My opponent should be able to make back-to-back Air Cutters, but in throwing the second Air Cutter, my Incinerate takes the knockout, so I'm just going to double shield. Now I can apply double Rock Tomb debuffs on whatever's in the back, and it's Fortress once again, and Shadow Camerupt is just burning it all down. Fortress shields up the Rock Tomb, but I can throw another Incinerate, and Fortress, it is arguably one of the best Pokemon in this meta, and Camerupt is just eating it alive. I double debuff it so the Bug Bites do nothing, and then to add a little insult to injury, we're sending in the Whimsicott. Whimsicott knocks out Fortress with the Resisted Moonblast, and we get the win. We finally get our first somewhat okay lead in the next match, leading Whimsicott into Dunsparce. My opponent save switches into a Togekiss, and this is where things could get a little bit tricky. Right away though, we see the value of having Water Gun. Where did half of Togekiss's health bar go? Their health bar is getting erased by the Water Guns, and it's one of the reasons why even though Mudshot did get buffed, in this cup I do really like Water Gun. Togekiss tries for a farm down and they don't get it. I barely survive the last peck, make the Aqua Tail, and force 2 shield advantage for my Camerupt. This Togekiss does have a ton of energy, and I'm just going to absorb it all on the Whimsicott. Again, this is win or lose with 2 shield Shadow Camerupt. Normally Dunsparce would have a pretty good matchup into Camerupt, but I'm a Camerupt up 2 shields. So what is the Dunsparce going to do? My opponent sends in the Dunsparce, I'm just going to look to Incinerate it into range where Scorching will KO. They reveal their final Pokemon in the back is a Gourgeist. And yeah, this game is over. Camerupt, Rock Tomb takes the knockout on the Gourgeist. Back in comes the Dunsparce, and now I get to connect with the Scorching Sands. And Shadow Camerupt is just ruthless. Scorching Sands connects, opponent sees the writing on the wall, and concedes the match. We get a terrible lead in the next match, Whimsicott into Fortress. This is a Volt Switch Fortress. I end up save switching into the Quagsire, and my opponent responds with Shadow Dragonite. This is another matchup where the Water Guns are just so incredibly oppressive. The Water Guns are resisted, and Quagsire just simply does not care. However, the Dragon Breaths have done so much damage, so my opponent can probably take a knockout with a Thunder Punch. Thunder Punch is resisted, but it's a very smart play by my opponent, because this way they ensure that they still have the maximum attack stat, so when they connect with this superpower, it does quite a lot of damage. Now they fire off superpower number 2. I'm again gonna be no shielding because I have to trust in Shadow Camerupt. I send in Camerupt into the fortress, they reveal in the back, they have Altaria, and this looks like a winnable game. Camerupt is up energy, it's up a shield, and I have Rock Tomb for super effective damage. Altaria is monstrously bulky, but they've already taken quite a lot of damage from Incinerate. Shadow Camerupt puts up the shield, I'm going to immediately undertap the Rock Tomb, and I need this to knock out. If the Rock Tomb knocks out, we win the game. Rock Tomb lands, but no, they survive on 1 HP, and they're able to make a last-second Sky attack, and I think that just lost me the game. Back in comes the Fortress, they make the Sand Tomb, and unfortunately that is KOing Camerupt. Camerupt is insanely frail. Back in comes the Whimsicott, I make the Moonblast, but this is not going to be enough to KO, and they're already at the Sand Tomb. I'm low enough that even though I resist Sand Tomb, it's just not going to matter. Sand Tomb is going to knock out the Whimsicott. We were so close to winning that game, but Altaria was just slightly too bulky. The tough leads continue in the next match, turning Whimsicott into Togetic. Togetic this season now gets access to the newly reworked Heat Wave, so it has massive super effective damage for Whimsicott, and that's going to force me to switch. I save switch into the Quagsire, they stay in to land a Psyshock, and then, like clockwork, the Quagsire save switch baits out an opposing Quagsire. This is really good news for the Camerupt. I land the Aqua Tail, my opponent will throw an Aqua Tail of their own, but I'm always going to be no shielding, because this is an opportunity for my Whimsicott to get a pretty nice energy head start, and hopefully with the Quagsire out of the way, Shadow Camerupt will be able to sweep. Back in comes the Whimsicott, instant no shield as they fire off the Stone Edge, and I will look to try and overfarm and then CMP tie them. But no, they end up pivoting out, they send in Shadow Drapion. I fire off the Moonblast, Drapion puts up the shield, and now in comes Camerupt. And look at the Incinerate damage, oh my goodness, Shadow Camerupt. I don't even know if this is a real Pokemon with how much damage this Pokemon does. This is just absolutely absurd. Camerupt going to be double shielding. These are neutral Incinerates, I promise. Camerupt just fully incinerated down a Drapion. They bring in the Quagsire. Quagsire's getting KO'd, and there's just no path forward for my opponent in this game. Once their Togetic gets debuffed, the Psyshock will not KO the Camerupt. Camerupt fires off the Rock Tomb. Opponent no shields, and that is one of the nastiest Camerupt sweeps you will ever see. We now move to the second Shadow Camerupt team, and in my eyes, this is the stronger of the two teams. Shadow Camerupt, Furret, Altaria. Two strong meta picks paired up with Camerupt. We pick up a pretty solid lead, Camerupt into Togetic. The Togetic throws a Heat Wave, so that tells me they're on Heat Wave plus Dazzling Gleam. We did see the Psyshock plus Heat Wave variant last game, but this Togetic is trying something different. My opponent safe switches into Shadow Quagsire, I'm able to bank a Rock Tomb for later and then send in Furret. Furret is a very strong counter swap to a Quagsire safe switch. Quagsire is going to land the Aqua Tail, and I'm actually not going to bait. I want to guarantee my opponent's final shield. Even if I end up losing switch advantage, I feel pretty okay with that because I have the loaded energy banked on the Camerupt. And Camerupt, having that rock plus ground coverage, is going to be hitting basically everything for at least neutral. Now I can send in the Altaria, my opponent pivots into the Togetic, but even if they're running Dazzling Gleam, Togetic does not have a very high attack stat, so I no shield, I'm able to survive, and I'm very comfortable just staying in this matchup. I don't want to switch lock the Camerupt, until I realize that I just put them in one Incinerate farm down range. Now I have a Scorching Sands, I'm going to win charge attack priority over this Quagsire. Quagsire is easily getting knocked out. In the back, what do you know, it's going to be a Fortress. Fortress gets erased in 3 Incinerates, and Shadow Camerupt takes the win. Dream lead in the next match, Shadow Camerupt into Abomasnow. We actually simultaneously save switch Furret into Quagsire. Anytime there's Abomasnow, I'm pretty confident there's always going to be a water type save switch. So I didn't want to stay in that matchup and give the water type a huge energy head start. Instead, I should have a pretty guaranteed free save switch into my own Furret, and that way I'm not behind on any energy. However, I still don't feel that I'm out of the woods yet, because usually the third with this team is Shadow Gyarados, and I am ABA weak. So after landing the boosted Swift, I get aggressive and I pivot into the Camerupt. My opponent switches out, they reveal it is the Shadow Gyarados in the back, but this is all going according to plan. Shadow Camerupt's Incinerates do not look resistant on Shadow Gyarados. I'm able to put up the shield, fire off the Rock Tomb, get the shield right back, and look at the amount of damage I am doing to this Gyarados. My plan was a pretty simple one. Bait back out the Gyarados, get it low with the Camerupt, debuff it, and then send in Altaria. Altaria gets the perfect Dragon Breath farm down, back in comes Abomasnow, but I'm pretty confident that I'm outside of range of Weather Ball knocking me out. So I no shield, I survive the Weather Ball, and surviving that instantly wins me the game. because my opponent can't shield. If they shield, I can just switch into Furret and make a Swift. They realize it's over, and they no shield. We move to the next match, picking up a pretty nice lead Shadow Camerupt into Togekiss. This opponent is SS Thorn, who was my first opponent of the video as well. So back-to-back days playing SS Thorn, this should be interesting. He's going to fire off a Psyshock, I'm going to throw one and go for the Rock Tomb. Rock Tomb is going to easily knock out the Togekiss. I would definitely prefer if he shielded, because that way I get to exit with a ton of energy on the Camerupt. Camerupt does exit pretty low, but Camerupt's energy goes very, very far in this meta. So I exit down a shield, but with a lot of energy, as in comes Licky. Licky will be immediately hit with the Rock Tomb. I thought about pivoting into Furret, but I don't, and that's going to cost me. I should have pivoted into the Furret immediately, reading that either I get Furret in a matchup where Licky is debuffed, or he's going to have to pivot out. But by staying in and throwing that Incinerate, I give the Quagsire a huge energy head start, and that is going to come back to cost me. Because I'm down energy, I can't make a second Swift. He's going to make the Aqua Tail, that knocks out the Furret, and now I'm in trouble. However, I don't think I'm out of it just yet, because he's debuffed. He switches out, he banks the Stone Edge, and this game is going to come down to a 50-50 call. He's going to have the Stone Edge loaded, but I'm going to have the ability to exit with a Charge Stack loaded and turn it into a 50-50 call. So even despite my mistake, we're not out of it yet. I'm going to have to go for a full farm down. It doesn't really matter what Licky throws, as Altaria will be able to hang on. They Shadow Ball, I farm down. I predict he's going to predict the catch, but he predicts that I stay in. What a read. SS Thorn gets his revenge. Stone Edge KOs Altaria, and we will lose that game. We move to the next match. We've got a Battle of Fire type Shadow Camerupt into Shadow Charizard. Here, I'm going to throw one Incinerate and then pivot out. Arguably, I think what I should have done was save switched into the Furret immediately, because Furret could always make the Swift before the Blast Burn. Whereas now, I have to make a bit of a tricky shield call, and I do end up getting the shield call right, so it ends up working out for me, but I don't think it was the optimal play. My opponent makes a nice catch as they're able to catch the Swift onto Toxapex. Toxapex loses Charge Attack priority to Furret, so my opponent should always go for the max overfarm. Throw 4 Poison Jabs, and then fire off the Brine. So, for me, that's actually an incredibly easy catch onto the Altaria. I'm able to preserve the Furret very close to a move, and Brine is going to do basically nothing. My opponent can stay in here and make it to a Sludge Wave, but I feel pretty comfortable shielding up the Altaria, because I know it's not like the Charizard energy is going to hit very hard. Speaking of the Charizard, back in comes the Charizard, they're firing off Air Cutter, and I'm going to be immediately no-shielding. Air Cutter does get the boost, that's not what I was hoping to see. I fire off the Sky Attack. If they want to preserve the Charizard, they can put up the shield, and now they're already at another Air Cutter. I think that I'm going to be no-shielding here. My Altaria barely hangs on, I send in the Camerupt, but unfortunately my Incinerates did not do as much damage as I was hoping, and I'm unable to snipe down before they make an Air Cutter. That forces my final shield, and now it all comes down to what does my opponent have in the back. They have Greninja, and this game is over. But no, they try for a catch. They could have just stayed in and won and outpaced me, but instead they tried to predict the catch, and that's going to cost them. As Greninja, that's absolutely getting one-shot by a Shadow Scorching Sands from Camerupt. We see a terrible lead in the next match, Shadow Camerupt into Shadow Gyarados. I'm going to immediately save switch into Furret. My opponent's going to stay in here and fire off some energy just to get some chip damage before they pivot out. Aqua Tail lands onto the Furret, in comes Licky, and this makes quite a bit of sense. Shadow Gyarados plus Licky was a core that I ran in the Open Great League last season, and I do think it's still a very, very strong pairing. Licky is so neutral, it's so bulky, and that is an amazing pair with the insane offensive pressure put out by Shadow Gyarados. Body Slam will not take the knockout onto my Furret. I'm able to make a Swift, and my opponent will actually stop tapping to let themselves get lower. However, I have other ideas. I'm not bringing in the Camerupt. Instead, I'm bringing in the Altaria. I want to try and get some pretty significant Altaria farm, because Altaria energy will go pretty far into the Gyarados if that's what they decide to bring in. My opponent sends in Piloswine, and this is not great. I'm going to be firing off Flamethrower, that's going to be shielded, and I send in Camerupt. Camerupt answered with the Shadow Gyarados, but look at the damage. I think I actually have an opportunity to win this game. I'm going to need Shadow Camerupt to Incinerate down. If I can get the full Incinerate down, then I actually have a chance, and I will. This Incinerate will take the knockout. All that's going to be left is the Piloswine, and I have the back-to-back Shadow Scorching Sands. This only hits for neutral damage, but it's going to hit for monster damage onto that Piloswine. They shield the first, I fire off the second, Scorching Sands lands, but it doesn't take the knockout. They throw one Powder Snow and the move to ensure the Incinerate does not land. Now it's going to be a race. Altaria versus the Piloswine. Can we reach the Sky Attack? No, we cannot. Oh, that is so unfortunate. We made that game as close as we could, but Piloswine hangs on, takes the knockout, and wins the game for my opponent. Hopping into the final match, we see a very familiar lead, Shadow Camerupt into Togekiss. Now, this should be a pretty nice lead for this team. However, the last time I faced a Togekiss lead, I lost. So, this time, I'm going to adjust my strategy, and by that I mean I'm just going to try and play better than I did last time. My opponent makes a very nice catch onto Licky Licky, but this will do quite a lot of damage and debuff them. It may seem obvious to bank the move and send in Furret, but I actually have a different idea. I'm going to be sending in Altaria. The reason being is I'm expecting the final Pokemon is going to be Shadow Quagsire, and Furret has a significantly better matchup there. And the debuff Licky Licky really cannot do a lot of damage to the Altaria. They fire off another Shadow Ball, that works for me. I can farm up to the back-to-back Sky attacks, and their Togekiss is very close to a move, but the important thing is that they do not have it. They are one peck shy. So by doubling up, I can now pressure a shield or remove all their energy. They're forced to put up the shield, and they're forced to throw energy as well. From the double resist to Dragon Breath, I'm pretty sure they're now in range where one Shadow Incinerate will knock them out. So I send in the Camerupt, put up the shield, shielding will make the damage register, and now I can debuff whatever's in the back. It is the Quagsire, and even if they call this Rock Tomb bait, it's not going to matter. It's actually a non-Shadow Quagsire. And if you thought non-Shadow Quagsire didn't do damage before, wait until it's at -1 attack. Now I can just send in the Furret, and there's just no way out for my opponent. I boost up my damage with the Trailblaze. They can throw the Stone Edge, but this is about to be the saddest Stone Edge you've ever seen. Opponent sees the writing on the wall and concedes the match. Shadow Camerupt has been an absolute blast to play in this meta. I believe now we have 3 or 4 battlers in my Discord who made it to the 2600s already, thanks to Shadow Camerupt, and specifically that second Shadow Camerupt team. I think Shadow Camerupt, it's not an easy Pokemon to use by any means, because it is extremely frail. However, if you are very precise with your plays and good with your energy management, Shadow Camerupt is insanely powerful. This Pokemon can just completely run away with games, and it did on several occasions throughout the course of this video. However, even if it's not the easiest Pokemon to pilot, I still think it is incredibly powerful. Its Rock plus ground coverage means that its energy goes absolutely everywhere, and its ability to lead into something like a Togekiss, fire off a Rock Tomb, and then just farm it down and leave with charge attacks loaded to threaten the backline, this Pokemon is just insanely oppressive. Now, you do have to be very careful, because there's quite a few games that can end immediately if you get a Water Gun user on the Camerupt, but that's a bit of the high-risk, high-reward nature of running a glass cannon like Camerupt. I think Camerupt is an insanely fun pick for this meta. I'm very happy that I was able to go quite positive with it on both teams that I used. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed watching today's video, please do help support the channel by leaving a like on the video, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And an extra special thank you, as always, to our channel members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide to the channel is so appreciated. So thank you guys, I love you very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.